cycles. A lot of people are wearing those Fitbits now to get their sleep patterns, and you'll notice on your Fitbit that your first 4 hours of sleep up till about 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, from 9 or 10 o'clock at night, it'll be mostly deep sleep. And then it'll be mostly REM sleep or light sleep. And you don't get REM sleep usually early on in your sleep cycle. And that's really important because that's how the body rests. And if you don't get deep sleep, then you make a whole bunch of cortisol. And if you make a whole bunch of cortisol, you're not getting human growth hormone. And guess what else happens? Your blood sugar goes up.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fix Blood Sugar webinar. We are excited to have you here. We are going to be talking about the power of sleep today. Now, this is something that comes up so often on our webinars. I think we've had so many different teachings and things that have just people have asked about them. You know, they'll say, oh, I'm trying to heal, or I'm trying to get healthier, or doing something like that, and I don't know what's going on. And then we find out they sleep for just a couple of hours at night, and it might be at weird times, and we find out that makes a big difference in their lives. And so we're gonna dig into that. We're gonna ask Dr. Saunders all of the questions. I know for a fact that he has some personal clients that have had their lives changed just from getting the correct sleep. And what does that even mean? What is the correct amount of sleep, or when should we sleep? Does it even matter? I remember my brother in college doing some weird sleep training thing where he would like sleep for 2 hours and then be awake and then sleep for I don't know. He played with a lot of fun stuff just to biohack his body, he said. And so we're going to ask him. We're going to ask Dr. Saunders, what's going on with all this? What do we need to do? But before we do that, Joe, welcome back.
Hi.
Tell us where you've been.
Oh, where haven't I been is the question, I think.
Where was the most fun place?
Yes, Israel. Went to Israel the last 10 days of May. And what is it today, the 7th? So this is timely because jet lag, sleep. I took a nap from 6 to 8 p.m. yesterday, like what in the world? Then I was up till 3 in the morning, and that wasn't great. So yeah, yes. But no, Israel was awesome. Loved it.
It's awesome. And Joe got to bring his family. So he has 4 boys and a girlfriend and a spouse and a friend, and just a fun time.
Not my girlfriend.
Not your girlfriend.
That was a son's girlfriend. Yeah.
That's true. Yes. No, his wife and their children and their significant others. So super fun. We're excited that you got to do that. And I don't want to forget to ask, let's make sure when we dig into this, we're going to ask Dr. Saunders, what do we do if we're traveling and we're in these different time zones? How do we best manage that? Because I know, I mean, we went to Dubai last year. I was with Joe and my husband and a few other people. And I remember even texting Dr. Saunders, like, what do we need to do here to help sleep right? Or how do we prepare? How do we prep our bodies? What do we need to do? So let's just get started. Before we do, though, one more thing. Dr. Saunders is not your personal doctor. For some of you, he feels like it, and I know, but you do need to chat with your own doctor before you implement any of these changes that we're talking about today. Even though Dr. Saunders will tell you they probably don't know a lot about them always, just please chat with them. All right. So, Dr. Saunders, how are you, by the way?
Good. No jet lag at all.
Hey, that's good. That's good. You do travel a lot, though. So, and do you travel between time zones when you go?
No, not very much between time zones.
No. But you just came back from a trip. We got to do a couple of webinars where you were in London, and that set us up for a beautiful background for you.
Yeah.
But now we can see you're back home. So,
back home.
You know what? Let's just start there. Let's talk about this. You were in London. Joe was in Israel. Oh, how do you do that? How do you do that for your body if you're traveling and you want to get...
Okay. You know what? NASA did a bunch of research on this for the space station, and they started off a long time ago with a bunch of people in a cave in Arizona, and they sealed off the cave. They go deep into the cave. Why the cave? Because there's a place where there's no light coming in from the outside at all. If you've ever been deep in a cave, it's like zero. There's like no light. But the other thing is there's no temperature changes either. It is constant. So they're living in the cave, and they got beds and everything, food and everything. But they have no clocks, so they don't know what time it is. And they just live their life, and they just go, okay, I'm tired, I'll go to sleep. What ended up happening is their days would lengthen. So instead of a 24-hour day and they're asleep for 8 hours and awake for 16 hours or whatever, they started lengthening the time they were awake, and then they would lengthen the time they were asleep. So the days would get longer and longer. So they would sleep for 10 or 12 hours, and then they'd be awake for 20 or 15 or 20 hours, or more than 20 hours. But one of the problems with that is that we've talked about in the past is that if you don't have a regular sleep-wake cycle, then you don't get anabolic when you're asleep. And so that's an important part of it too, is having the regularity of the cycle to become anabolic. Anabolic is the metabolism that rebuilds and repairs and makes your muscles big and cleans out your brain and makes everything work well. So it prevents you from having to get knee replacements and hip replacements and all that kind of stuff. So then they looked at jet lag specifically, and they said, so NASA did the research on that too, and they said, okay, so what's the best way? And they tried the full spectrum light. So you have this full spectrum light, and you increase it by 1 hour, you just change it by 1 hour every day, but it still took 1 day for every hour you wanted to change your circadian rhythm. What that means is that you got to start, like if you're going to go to India or China, you're going to have to start 2 weeks before with your full spectrum light to change your circadian rhythm while you're in like the United States, for example, and then try to live like that before you go on your trip, whatever. And that wasn't. That was okay. It wasn't very useful. Melatonin also is one of those hormones that is part of our circadian rhythm. So when it gets dark outside, we start making melatonin, and then that we get a little sleepy, and that puts us allows us to sleep. And then that is the lower part of our circadian rhythm, and then we start the anabolic mode from that. But again, that took a day for every hour they wanted to change, and approximately a day for every hour they wanted to change their circadian rhythm, until they came up with something else, and it's food. Food is your best weapon for sleep. There are other things, hacks that we can talk about in a minute, but this is what they found was if you fast for, I usually do just 1 day. So you do 24 hours before your first morning meal in your new place. So I went to England, and it was really easy for me because I ate breakfast in the morning. And then I was on a plane, and they offer you food, and the food's no good anyway, so I didn't take it. And then they offer you snacks, you don't take those either. They offer you water, and I did have sips of water. And then I got there at 4:00 in the afternoon. And everybody says, let's go out to eat. And I'm like, nope, not going out to eat, because my first meal has to be the morning meal, because that starts your circadian rhythm. So I just went through that day. I slept a little bit that night because I had slept on the plane somewhat. I sleep really well on a plane. And then I slept a little bit that night, like 3 or 4 hours, not a lot. And then the next morning, I was up really early, like 3:00 in the morning. I waited till 7:00 in the morning, and I ate breakfast. And then that day I went out, and we were touring around and doing stuff. And I went to bed, and again, I didn't get that much sleep, 4 hours of sleep. But I waited, I didn't eat dinner that night, and I ate breakfast the next morning. So then And then by that time, I was perfectly fine. Didn't have any issues. I was there for 12 days, no problems. And then I came back, did the same thing. Didn't eat anything on the flight. Just ate the morning meal. We got on the plane. I didn't eat anything until the next day, which is more than 24 hours, but it didn't matter that much. My morning meal. And again, the same thing. The first couple of nights, I didn't sleep that much, but then the third night, boom, I slept all night and I was good. So here I am. It's been it's the third day now, and no tiredness, and feeling great. Didn't have to take a nap.
Wow, very interesting. That's good. And it's a lot easier for Dr. Saunders to fast than most people. I will say that.
Well, that's because I practice.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier for some people to play tennis than me too, because I don't practice.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point. I like that. We're gonna have to use that. All right. Well, that is awesome. That's good information. Okay, so how about the everyday person? Now you mentioned anabolic and catabolic. What does that really mean? Let's dig into that a little bit. And let's say, first of all, let me just show you guys this. We are often talking about the diabetes solution kit on this webinar. Okay, so this is Dr. Saunders' solution if you want to reverse your type 2 diabetes. There is information about sleep, but this is sleep and stress are two really, really important things that are often forgot about. I think when you're trying to overcome illnesses or you're wanting to heal your body, etc. And so Dr. Saunders spends a lot of time talking about sleep. And we've talked about the 6-10 reset. Now, we've been chatting about this for years. Are you finding that this is still your favorite way for people to change their lives and to heal?
It's life-changing. It makes a big difference because healing starts when you're anabolic. And so I have here my handout that I give to people. And if you'll notice, the circadian rhythm, your metabolism changes from day to night. So during the day, you have a catabolic metabolism, and at night, you have an anabolic metabolism. But that doesn't happen if you have a whole bunch of cortisol. The cortisol is the catabolic hormone. And so that if you have a whole bunch of cortisol, you're not going to make human growth hormone and do this repair and detox and rebuild and cleanse. So that's actually really important, and it is important, and it really works, and it really makes a difference. And that's why I talk a lot about the catabolic and the anabolic metabolism. If you look through research at the people that do bodybuilding, for example, they talk a lot about, you want an anabolic metabolism, and how do you do that? And they talk about using injections of human growth hormone. You know what? The simplest way is just sleep. So going to sleep by 10 o'clock at night is the best way. And earlier is okay. So some people go to bed at 9 o'clock, that's fine. A lot of times you have to make melatonin. And so you have to shut off the lights by 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And if you turn off the lights, you can still do stuff like read or whatever, but your peripheral vision needs to be dark. And that darkness is telling your pineal gland that you need to start making melatonin. And so then you start making melatonin and you start getting sleepy. And then you get deep sleep. Those first 4 hours of sleep from 10 to 2 should be mostly deep sleep. And if you've ever looked at sleep cycles, a lot of people are wearing those Fitbits now. They get their sleep patterns. And you'll notice on your Fitbit that your first 4 hours of sleep up till about 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, from 9 or 10 o'clock at night, it'll be mostly deep sleep. And then after that, it'll be mostly REM sleep or light sleep. And you don't get REM sleep usually early on in your sleep cycle. And that's really important because that's how the body rests. And if you don't get deep sleep, then you make a whole bunch of cortisol. And if you make a whole bunch of cortisol, you're not getting human growth hormone. And guess what else happens? Your blood sugar goes up, your blood pressure goes up. and all of the problems associated with that, like heart disease and brain disease, vascular disease. So the sleep is a very important part of treating your diabetes, your type 2, because we talked about this before. All by itself, stress can cause type 2. Remember I told you about that lady that had perfectly normal blood sugar when she wasn't stressed, and when she was stressed, it was uncontrollably high all the time. And that was just stress-induced diabetes. And so if you're not sleeping, guess what happens? Stress-induced, diabetes. So some of you have said, you've called in and said, I've been doing this program and my blood sugars are still 200. What the heck? And then I've told you about other types of diets, other types of things you can do. But one of the things that we haven't really talked a lot about is making sure you get adequate sleep, that you're getting deep sleep. Because people with sleep apnea, for example, they can be knocked out all night long, 10 hours, and wake up tired because they didn't get any deep sleep, because every time they go into deep sleep, their throat cuts off and they can't breathe. So they just don't get deep sleep. And that causes them to release extra cortisol. The blood sugar goes up and they're not getting the rest they need. So all of that's really important. So if you have sleep apnea, you may need a mask to treat it. Or there's actually several studies now that show that losing weight takes losing about 30 pounds for most people. If you're severely overweight, you may need to lose more than that. And that will reverse or resolve the sleep apnea. And then you'll get deep sleep like normally without a mask.
So interesting. What is really the cause of sleep apnea? I mean, you can lose weight, that may help, but what else causes that to happen?
Well, there's two different kinds of sleep apnea, really. One is called central sleep apnea. And that's where it's from the brain, where people who, when they go into deep sleep, they just stop breathing and their oxygen levels drop down. And it's not because of obstruction. That's the other kind, is obstructive sleep apnea. And that's the people who have the really thick neck and the small throat, and you open the throat and you can barely see anything in there. They can't swallow like something that's big. They don't swallow pills well, for example. But they also, with the small throat, don't breathe well. So when they fall into a deep sleep and everything relaxes, then they can no longer hold it open. It goes, and then and their partner always says, "You stopped breathing. I was waiting for you to start breathing. I was worried you were dead." And then you go see the doctor and do the test. And you go, "Oh yeah, obstructive sleep apnea," and that's where you have the mask. The obstructive sleep apnea, the mask puts positive pressure in there to keep things open while you're in deep sleep, so that it allows you to continue to breathe, because you don't have to suck it in, because it's pushing air in. So that's how that works. The central sleep apnea is a different issue entirely, and that has to be dealt with. Usually, I start off people with oxygen, just nasal cannula oxygen, so that their oxygen levels don't drop down. And that's been worked every time for me. So, but I've had some people go to neurologists to find out about central sleep apnea and why that's happening.
So that might be, if someone's waking up, they know they're sleeping 8-9 hours and they are just exhausted in the morning. That may be something to consider looking into.
Yes, absolutely. Especially if you can't control your blood sugar too. That's big.
Okay. All right. This is such good information. I want to dig into some of these questions that we have here. And actually this is a great segue here, because I want to talk about magnesium. And Susan had mentioned that she's been sleeping like a bear ever since taking Barton Nutrition's magnesium. Now she sleeps at least 8 hours sound sleep. What role does magnesium have in good sleep for us?
So let's look at it the other way around. If you're deficient in magnesium, you don't sleep very well. There are over 300 different enzymes that require magnesium, and magnesium is required for relaxation. it relaxes everything. It relaxes your muscles, it relaxes your heart, it relaxes your blood vessels, and it relaxes your brain. So that relaxation response is a normal amount of magnesium. So people who are not deficient in magnesium, they'll take magnesium and go, doesn't make me drowsy at all, doesn't have any effect on me, because you already have normal levels. So it's the people that are low in magnesium that they take it and they go, wow, what a difference.
Interesting. That makes sense. If you're someone who is interested in that magnesium, you can go to bartonnutrition.com, use code webinar25 and you will save 25%. I've been showing our nutrition site quite often on the webinars in these past couple of weeks. But there's a lot of good information there, and there's even a little video of Dr. Saunders sharing why he thinks it's important, in case you didn't hear what he said fully. So check that out. All right. Lots of people on today. This is awesome. Roger's here. Vincent is back. Dan, Patricia. We're going to ask a question here from Patricia. I'm on day 40 of the program, and the program is the Diabetes Solution Kit, in case you were wondering what that is. I got below 100 morning fasting on day 3 and wasn't having blood spikes. On day 14, I had the suggested doctor's appointment. My A1C was 7.1, which I have maintained on my own without meds for several years. He is pleased and has not recommended meds. At this appointment, he suggested I take a second pneumonia vaccine. I'm not a vaccine person, but had taken this one because I know it's deadly for older adults. I'm 78. The vaccine did a number on my body. Chills, fever, a rib out twice, general exhaustion. I've been resting and still following the program as best as I know how, but I've lost 7 pounds. I was not overweight, and I'm beginning to look emaciated at 108 pounds. My blood sugar was 99 today, the first time since the shot, but otherwise I haven't had spikes, and blood sugar has gone below 150 after eating. Blood sugar is higher at night. How do I stop the weight loss without going off the program?
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good question. You don't want to be super skinny. You don't want to lose weight. Yeah, that's 108 pounds. That's pretty low. I don't know how tall you are, but that's not a lot of weight anyway. Anyway, so that's a great question of how, what do you do? Well, first thing is to find out if your pancreas is making enough insulin, because insulin is the only hormone you have that can put weight on your body. You can't get fat into your fat cells without insulin. And you also can't get protein into your cells to build muscle or anything else. You can't build up anything in your body without insulin. So insulin is the key to that. So what you need to know if you're losing weight is your pancreas making insulin? So there's 2 tests. Well, actually, you should probably do all 4 of the tests: glucose, hemoglobin A1C, and C-peptide and insulin. The C-peptide and insulin tell you your pancreas function, and then your hemoglobin A1C and glucose, you probably already do that. But you need the glucose and insulin at the same time so that you can see what the relative amounts of those are, to give you a glucose and insulin resistance index. And if your insulin is really low and your blood sugar is high, then your pancreas probably isn't making enough insulin, and that may be the issue. In which case, either you have to find out why, like looking at tests to see if you make antibodies, if you have autoimmune disease. Sometimes vaccines can induce autoimmune disease. And by the way, that particular vaccine, I did a whole bunch of research on it. You know, I used to own the travel clinic for Santa Barbara, and I was the only one that had a yellow fever vaccine stamp from California, from the state of California. And so I did all the vaccines, all the travel vaccines. We had our freezer was just full of every vaccine known to man. I did a lot of research on them. And that particular vaccine, the Pneumovax, the pneumococcal vaccine, they call it the pneumonia shot. It's not a pneumonia shot, it's a pneumococcal shot. And it doesn't prevent pneumonia. And that's been proven in multiple studies. But the worst thing is that outside of the country, all the studies that were done showed double your risk of getting pneumococcal disease if you get the vaccine. So it's not helpful, and it doesn't prevent pneumonia. So I don't recommend that one as a rule at all. There was only one group that had any benefit at all, and that was in children 0 to 6 months. And it's because their immune system is not complete. But after 6 months, it doubled their risk of getting pneumonia, of getting pneumococcal disease. So, it's pretty rare to get that. So it's not a big deal. Double your risk if it's, 1 in 1,000, now it's 2 in 1,000, that's not a big deal. So I'm not saying that you're going to get sick because of it, but it's just not recommended to do that. So the bottom line is, what do you do? First, find out if you're making enough insulin. So do those tests: C-peptide, insulin, and then you probably already have hemoglobin A1C and blood sugar, glucose.
Okay. This is good information. Again, I bet you guys didn't know that he ran a traveling clinic, did you? Every time we hop on these webinars, we find out more interesting information.
The travel vaccine clinic. I wasn't traveling. I wasn't traveling.
Yes. Although a travel clinic would be very helpful. That's something to think about. Okay. Let's see. Debbie said, "Hi, this is my first time here. I'm hoping to get a lot of good information to help me get my blood sugar in line." So welcome, Debbie. We're excited that you're here. This is a really, really good place to be. And you're surrounded with a lot of people who are working on the same thing, or they've already had a lot of success, and they just keep coming back to help other people. Like we have the Garcias here who have done that. I mean, they're awesome. So we're happy that you are here, and feel free to ask any questions, you guys. Let me see here. Okay, Rayanne says, "I have severe sleep apnea. I took a test in April, but the first available appointment to get fitted for a machine is in November." Anything she could do in the meantime?
Okay, well, we talked before about weight loss, and that's part of what the Diabetes Solution Kit is about. And we don't look at it as a weight loss program, but if you think about what you're doing in phase 1, you're training your body to burn fat. And if you're training your body to burn fat, for heaven's sakes, you can burn the fat that's on your body. Whereas if you're required to lose glucose, you don't use the fat on your body. And that's where insulin resistance prevents you from using fat for energy. And so you actually store more fat. So the program that you have, I hope you have already, is the phase 1 of the Diabetes Solution Kit is a great place to start for sleep apnea as well.
All right. This may be a funny question, but someone in my family that I know snores sometimes, who sleeps in my same bed. I noticed that he doesn't snore if he's laying on his side, but if he's on his back, he does. Does that make a difference when you're talking about sleep apnea?
That's a common issue. And in fact, people who have sleep apnea, they generally snore pretty loudly. And when they're on their back, they will have more episodes of sleep apnea than if they're on their side or on their stomach. Yeah. And in fact, they make sleep apnea pajamas with a pocket in the middle that you just put like a racquetball in, or a tennis ball, or even a golf ball. For Tyler, put a golf ball in there. And it's a pocket in the back so that every time they turn on their back, there's a lump there, and they'll just roll over onto their side, and it won't be enough to wake them up. And that actually works.
I feel like I'll get a lot more sleep too. If I spend most of the night, roll over, move, go to your side. So, all right. He's going to love that I'm chatting about that on this. But if you don't know, my husband also works for Barton Publishing. So these guys are laughing because they know him, and they probably stayed in the hotel room with him. So they know it's true.
Ruby's fine. I snore more than he does probably. So, but I just play a little white noise machine, whatever.
Yes. I was going to ask about that too. I'm like, is there a benefit to having a white noise type of machine at night that, does that help you to get better sleep?
Well, for some people it does. For some people, it makes a difference. Some people are very sensitive to noise.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I'm not, and I never liked the white noise machine. I don't like the white noise at all. But I know people who can't sleep without a white noise machine.
Or a fan. Lots
Or a
of people
fan
need
or
fans.
something.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a lot of fans.
Oh boy. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, all right. Okay. Question from Anonymous. In a medical drama that I've been watching on Netflix. Okay. Is this the midwife medical drama? Because I too can almost deliver babies from watching that. So if you're talking about that, I'm just kidding. One of the characters developed type 2 diabetes, and immediately the doctor made her take insulin shots. One of the many things I find disturbing is the misinformation that this TV show is promoting about the treatment of type 2 diabetes, and probably many other maladies. How do you say that? Melodies. Yes, maladies that I don't know anything about. The work you do with these webinars is very important. Thank you for your commitment to the good health of all of us.
Oh, good.
It's very nice.
Good.
I know.
Yeah, see, so everybody on this program knows that type 2 diabetes, insulin is not useful for type 2 diabetes. In fact, it's counterproductive because you have excess insulin. It's really, insulin is really only useful for type 1 diabetes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we all know that.
Kathy says, what is the LPIR score for insulin resistance? Not heard of this.
LPIR is an insulin resistance index, and there are various ways of doing it, but it's just an indication of what your insulin resistance is. So if it's less than 1, it's okay. If it's greater than 1, then it's too high. But you have to also look on it as a scale and not a yes or no question.
Okay, interesting question here from Roger. A little discouraged about how long it's taking for the combo benefits of Synachroma and berberine to kick in. I've been using Synachroma for almost 3 months now and berberine for almost 2 weeks. The only difference is a couple of lost pounds and an increase in my blood sugar levels. Note, I don't really want to lose any more weight, but don't worry, I'm not going to give up. Right now, the thing that keeps me going are the testimonies of others you share during the webinars. I'm sure my significant change is coming. First of all, good for you for reframing your mind that way. That is powerful. That said, what words other than stay the course or hang in there do you have to give to your type 2s like myself? And let me add a little more to that. He says, by the way, about my sleep, I only sleep about 4 to 6 hours daily, and it's been that way for years. I realize exercise is critical for me, but I've been demoted lately and haven't exercised in almost 2 months. I know, start back my exercise. I normally walk, and that's about it. Is there anything else I can do exercise-wise? Great questions.
Okay, great question. So let's start off with the first one, and that is, you really don't want to lose weight, but you're taking this Synachroma and berberine and expecting your blood sugar to drop. Okay, that's not the purpose. That's not what they're for. The Synachroma is to give you the nutrients that you need so that you can just use sugar normally. That's what it is. So it has vitamin D, vitamin K, selenium, and chromium, vanadium. These are nutrients that are common deficiencies. That's why the purpose is because they're common deficiencies and they affect your blood sugar. Like, for example, just being low in chromium, deficiency of chromium could cause you to have type 2 diabetes because you can't use your blood sugar properly. So getting enough chromium is important. It turns out vitamin D makes you more sensitive to insulin. So that improves your insulin sensitivity. Hey, great, that's what we want. But none of these are for lowering blood sugar. So if you're sitting around and waiting for these to work, they're not going to work. That's not their purpose. So here's what you do. My advice then is to get the book and start in phase 1 of the program. And you can even leave the berberine and the Synachroma at this point and get the book and do phase 1 of the program instead so that you can get your blood sugars back to normal. And you don't have to lose weight on this program. And that's the other part of it. Yeah, we talked about you can lose weight because you're training your body to burn fat. But if you eat the fat, then you can burn the fat that you eat. You don't have to lose weight on the program because there's no limitation in calories at all on the program. It's really just limitation in carbohydrates. So that's, if you don't want to lose weight, then you can eat more. That's okay.
This is good information. Again, just like he said, the magic is in the diabetes solution kit, guys. And so if you do not have this yet, bartonwebinar.com is the place you'll want to go to check that out. And you can download that immediately and have that in your hands today. Okay, not in your hands. I'm sorry, your digital hands. You'll have them online. You can look at your computer or screen and see it. But if you do want the printed copy, that is an option too. It just costs a little bit more, but $19.97, and you can have the digital. $19.97. You can have the digital version. Last week, Dr. Saunders corrected me and said it was only $1,997 when I said that. It's not. It's only $19.
Hey, that's less than people pay me to come in and reverse their diabetes.
Think about that. How much money and how often they're probably coming back to check in with you and to do their all of that. I mean, it's a lot. So this is a powerful book, guys.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Plus you get to come on the webinars for free. So,
right.
I mean, yeah, just unreal. Even if I didn't have type 2, well, I don't, but I would still come here each week because I'm learning so much just about health in general and sleep and stress, the impacts on the body. I mean, look, we're talking about sleep apnea. You didn't know you were going to learn about that on the diabetes webinar, did you? So lots of good stuff. All right. Connie said, hi all, I'm doing a sleep study presently and I have RLS really bad. So the doctor tells me that sleep apnea causes RLS. Is that possible? What is RLS?
Restless leg syndrome.
Sure.
And what that is periodic limb movements. So you just move a lot at night. Your legs move a lot. And some people, they have RLS, like they can't get to sleep because they can't lay still because they just have to keep moving, and they don't. So it prevents them from sleeping. But it's not that sleep apnea causes RLS. It's that they are connected in the same way. So for example, you can have central sleep apnea that's caused by a lack of dopamine that's related to like Parkinson's, for example. And then so the RLS is also related to that. Those are so that's where the connection comes in. And because of that lack of dopamine, sometimes they'll give a medication like Requip or carbidopa-levodopa. And what that is supposed to do is supposed to increase the amount of dopamine. So let me just have you try something. First of all, do the diabetes solution kit so that you can get energy to your muscles. Take berberine and synochroma and Nervala. Nervala has the two vitamins of vitamin B1 that helps the circulation, and then the alpha lipoic acid. And what that does is that'll help the muscles to have more blood flow and more energy in them, so you won't have RLS. And then to increase your dopamine, use a velvet bean extract. The advantage of the velvet bean is it's not going to affect your brain dopamine as much. It's not going to decrease your brain's ability to make dopamine. So if they take dopamine, it'll block their brain from making dopamine. It actually causes inflammation in the substantia nigra where the dopamine is made. And so you can actually create something like Parkinson's disease in somebody who doesn't have it by giving them dopamine. So, but the velvet bean extract, it doesn't work that way. It gives you the precursors so that your body makes it, and you don't get the inflammation. So, those are the things to do for the RLS. And for the sleep apnea, again, first thing to do is if you're overweight at all, just lose weight, because that's the best way to. And there are other things, if you go to a physical therapist, if you can ask them, instead of getting the machine, ask for physical therapy. Physical therapists do amazing things with sleep apnea. They can teach you how to do exercises to get your neck muscles firm so that you don't so they don't crunch down and cut off your air supply when you're sleeping at night. And to tone your muscles is really good, and they can teach you how to do that specifically.
Interesting. Okay, good stuff. We do have a couple questions about what is the pneumococcal disease and how's that different from pneumonia?
Okay, so pneumococcal disease is actually a streptococcus organism. So if you've heard of strep throat, that's strep pyogenes. It's a different kind of strep. But the strep pneumoniae, Streptococcus pneumoniae, is the organism, but it's an envelope organism. So it has a capsule around it of carbohydrate that protects it from the immune system. And your body clears it out pretty well if you have a spleen. But if you don't have a spleen, then you don't clear it out very well. And so the diseases are usually sepsis, which means this Streptococcus pneumoniae bacteria is growing in your blood, and it's circulating around in your blood, and it causes high fevers, and it can cause death from cardiovascular collapse. So, so it's a bad illness. And when little babies get it, it's really bad. It can also cause meningitis. And those are much more common than pneumonia for strep pneumonia. The reason they call it strep pneumonia is because they found the organism in the lungs. But it wasn't necessarily pathologic. It's there. It exists there because it exists all around us. And so if you have a spleen, you'll probably never have an issue with it. But some people, when they lose their spleen, they need to be able to clear the organism. So they get the strep pneumoniae, the pneumococcal vaccine, so that they can have antibodies to clear it out.
Interesting. Okay. This is good stuff. Learning a lot. Rayanne says, yes, sleeping on the side is the only way that I get sleep. Interesting.
That makes sense.
Let's see. Stephen says, I'm on my first week and I have so much food building up. Is it command that most people eat the same food so not to waste food when you make multiple portions?
Building up food.
Well, one thing that I'm kind of wondering, I've talked about this a couple times. What I recommend is if you're talking about you're making a lot of the meals that are in the diabetes solution kit, those are just some suggestions. If you want, what we like to do is say, find 2 meals you like for breakfast, find 2 meals you like for lunch, find 2 meals that you want to eat in the evening, and just rotate those and slowly add in other ones as you want to. You don't have to eat those meals that we've put in there. You can eat whatever you want as long as it fits into your carb plan. If that's what you're talking about,
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So like if you have eggs and you're fine eating that for 2 of your meals each day, go for it. I mean, you do whatever you like. Let's see. Kathy runs a fan at night. Stephen says, my severe apnea still wouldn't stop swallowing tongue. So I found a dentist that measured my mouth for an appliance that held my jaw forward, and it worked great.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Gosh, I totally forgot about that. You can go to, if you have sleep apnea where your tongue falls back, they actually have an appliance, and it's just like a retainer kind of thing that holds your tongue down, prevents your tongue from falling and closing off your throat. And that can work really well so that you don't have to have that air pressure. Yeah.
This is good. Good job. And good job, figuring it out for yourself too. That's awesome. This is a really good question from David. He said, what about shift workers? I work for the railroad as a conductor for 3 years, and I'm on the road. There was no fixed schedule. One day you would work night, then after 8 hours of rest, you work days, and it kept changing very dynamically. What techniques, if any, can help this? We've had this question about nurses that work overnights and do 10-hour shifts. What do you say,
Yeah.
Dr. Saunders? What do you think?
Okay, there's no great way to do it, and the research shows. Dr. Sachin Panda did research on this, and showed that when people are shift workers, when they're on the day shift, they can get anabolic and they're good, but when they're on the night shift, they don't, and so it's not an easy thing to answer, to say what can I do to be normal when you're not normal. You're not going to have a regular sleep schedule because of your work schedule, and so what can you do? Okay, so I kind of explained the simple, or the easiest way to do this is with food. So having your breakfast meal, and then not eating after dinner, whatever that is as important as sleeping. So keeping your sleep schedule as best you can, but if you got to be up, eating in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning is a better way to do it. So keeping your eating schedule regular, even when your sleep schedule is not, is a kind of a secondary way to do that, because what that does is that keeps your circadian rhythm to the point where on the days that you aren't working nights, that you can get good sleep during the day.
All right. John says diabetes is a silent killer. I don't feel like I'm sick. Is that common that people don't feel sick?
Yeah, a lot of people, in fact, there's an estimate that about 1/3 of the population is walking around not feeling sick, and they are insulin resistant or even frankly diabetic.
Robert says, my first time here on the webinar, I've been taking ursinochroma and Nervala for over 2 months now with Farxiga 10 milligrams. Per today, no results from either. Average test fasting is between 169 and 190. Help, please. When I was on Synjardy 2 times, 1,000 milligrams daily, the average test was 105 to 130. I do not want to use metformin.
Okay, so we're back to do not look at the medications or the supplements or any of that stuff as that's going to lower your blood sugar. That's not what it's for. Really, what you need to do is get the diabetes solution kit and start on phase 1. That would be the best thing you could do.
All right. All right. Susan said the healthy food plate on page 22, shouldn't that be different for people on phase 1? And you know what? Our food plate that we posted is a general food plate. This shifts pages 1, 2, and 3. But this does give you an idea of what a healthy food plate looks like. But also Dr. Saunders will say different things too. He likes really, really high fiber, and he's finding that is really successful for people. So you got to kind of use that, whatever works, I think, best for you also, and whatever plan that you're on, because it does change from phase 1 to phase 3. They do look very different. So you are right, Susan. Okay, my doctor put me on 2 liters of oxygen at night, and it seems to help with the sleep apnea.
Yeah, and that would be central sleep apnea. That's a good way to do it. It does seem to help.
Well, this is interesting. So Vincent asked, what does the healthy gut supplement do? And Ruth said the healthy gut stopped the gas from taking the omega-3 that was causing bad gas for her. So that's very interesting. In general, what does our healthy gut product do? Why would someone want to take a probiotic and a prebiotic?
Okay, so we formulated the healthy gut as to get people through a difficult period of time when they're not digesting their food well. And so it has digestive enzymes in it, and it has probiotics and prebiotics. And so the prebiotic is something that helps the probiotics to grow. And so that's the food. So the food for the probiotic is the probiotic is the bacteria, and the food for it is fiber. So there's fiber in it. And then there's digestive enzymes. And the reason for the digestive enzymes is a lot of people have low enzyme they don't digest their food well, because they have low acid in their stomach, and they're not making enough digestive enzymes. So those three things are in there to help it, to help the intestines to function better, so you can digest your food. That's really important.
Yeah, there you go. You can see that at bartonnutrition.com. Again, use code webinar25 and you will save 25%. We know that guy right there. There he is talking about it. Okay. So again, bartonnutrition.com is our site. Lots of good questions, guys. Let's see. Someone, Emmanuel, said, since I started taking Synachroma from the 1st of June, my night visit to the bathroom has been reduced.
Well, that's a good idea. That's great. That usually means that your blood sugar is lower.
Ooh, very good.
Yeah.
Ernest said, we found that we do not have to prepare so much food after being on phase 1 for a time, losing the weight as well as lowering our A1C. So that's good.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah, it is. Okay, and then I had a message here. Vila and Barbie Garcia said, we are veterans of the program now, and we are living proof that the solution kit works. If we can do it, anyone can. So I told you guys, you got veterans on here who've done the hard work, and they're back because they're happy and they love sharing with everyone else too. So, okay. Let me see. Debbie says, I already take 5,000 IU of vitamin D because of my MS. Is it going to be a problem, I think, adding the extra vitamin D2?
Oh,
the Synachroma?
Interesting. No, yeah, the Synachroma has 5,000 also, and 5,000. That would be 10,000 a day. And that would be an adequate amount. So between 5,000 and 10,000 is pretty much what the optimum amount. Especially if you have MS, you do want to be more on the higher side. So if your blood levels, you want it to be in the 70s or 80s. And the 5,000 will get you a normal level, but you can get the higher normal level with the healthy gut support. So yeah, 10,000 a day is fine.
Okay. Bob says, can I take the blood pressure kit and the diabetes kit at the same time? So can
Yes.
I use them? Okay.
Yes, those are fine.
All right. Connie says, I want to put a note in that I consider Dr. Saunders and you all my go-to group. I'm working with my doctor on my diabetes and other things. I always go back to your webinars to check out what you say. I really appreciate your comments and advice. And Dr. Saunders is my doctor, even though he doesn't know that. I love it. That's awesome, Connie. All right. What else do we have here? Worth said A1C went from 5.9 to 5.2 on May 5th. I eat breakfast and lunch with no in-between snacks. I'm losing a lot of weight. What do I do to increase insulin if I have these tests? The loss of weight is not affecting his health.
To increase insulin, well, you find out why if you're not making enough insulin. Like if you have antibodies against insulin or antibodies against your islet cells that make the insulin, then you have an autoimmune disorder that needs to be fixed. So you fix the autoimmune disorder, and then your pancreas works well, and you make the insulin normally again. If your pancreas just is not functioning, then sometimes people need to inject insulin. That's what insulin is for. It's for an inadequate amount of insulin coming from the pancreas.
All right. Let's see. Anku said Nervala is not good for pregnant women. What other supplements will work for them?
Well, pregnant women are going to need magnesium. Almost all pregnant women need magnesium. In fact, that can help prevent preeclampsia and high blood pressure during pregnancy, just getting enough magnesium. And then of course, B vitamins. And mostly these things are in a prenatal vitamin. So I think, just starting with a prenatal vitamin would be a good idea.
Okay.
They usually add extra like folic acid and the kinds of things that are needed during pregnancy.
We haven't answered this question in at least a couple of weeks. So Dr. Saunders has said that artificial sweeteners cause major changes to digestion and blood sugar. Stevia is natural. Will it cause those spikes?
It can, yes. And I've seen it and I know it happens for some people at least. Some people are really sensitive to the taste of sweet and they end up increasing their insulin levels and causing insulin resistance because of that sweet taste. So yes, it could be a problem.
Okay. Let me see here. All right, I think that is pretty much it. I think Roger sent over some of his blood sugar or some of his tests. I don't know that you can see those, Dr. Saunders. We've never really looked at anybody's before, but if you want to look at them, you could. Those were his most recent A1C tests. And it's in the Q&A, and that looks like I don't know what, a lot of numbers. So if you can transcribe those. Oh, we lost your volume.
Okay. Kidney function looks really good. Glucose level is 116. That's a little on the high side. Unless it wasn't fasting. If it's fasting, that's high. If it's not fasting, it's okay. Calcium is normal. Protein is normal. Bilirubin is good. Alkaline phosphatase, AST, So the liver function, kidney function are fine. Blood sugar is a little high. And that's what that shows.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. Good to know. All right, you guys. This has been very informational. A lot of information that we haven't even talked about before. So, Dr. Saunders, we appreciate you. Go be a blessing to your patients, just like you have been to us. And we'll actually see you tomorrow again for our Healthy Heart webinar at 12 noon Central Time. Are you still reading through the tests again?
Yeah, I am. There's more tests here. So the hemoglobin A1C is 7.2, and that's definitely diabetes. Vitamin D is 34. That's on the low side. Cholesterol is 81. Total cholesterol, that's way too low. I don't know why your cholesterol is so low. And your cholesterol to HDL ratio is low also. Triglycerides are 40, that's okay. Urine creatinine 106 with the ratio of 5.6, which is good. So that you don't have a lot of protein in the urine, and that's good. So it looks like your kidney function is still good. Your liver function is still good. Cholesterol is way too low. I hope you're not on like a cholesterol lowering medication because you actually need the cholesterol. Anyway, good. Yeah, that's interesting.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Good job, everyone. Glad I could help.
Bye.
Hey, we're glad you're here. Moral support,
Thanks, Joe.
Moral
Moral
support.
support.
Yes.
All right, guys. And one more time, bartonwebinar.com is where you can go to find links to all the things that we do or talk about, links to our YouTube channel, supplement links, and use code webinar25 to save 25%. If you guys haven't joined us for the Healthy Heart webinar, do so. We are about 8 weeks into that. It is such good information. You get more of Dr. Saunders, who you guys all know and love. And we also brought in Cheryl, who oversees our Home Cares That Work, kind of our digital magazine. She also works really closely with Dr. Saunders. She also heads up our customer support team. So she gets to hear a lot of the questions that you guys ask. She knows what you want to know. And so we ask those questions on that webinar as we talk about how to keep your health or your heart healthy. So join us tomorrow. You can register at bartonwebinar.com. It's another free webinar at 12 noon Central. All right. Well,
job, Leslie.
Thanks. We will see you guys tomorrow or next week. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.